again.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this 20th edition of The Right Report, hosted by the Stockton Republicans Club. I'm Tyler Murnghan.
I'm Gabriella Boyle, and I'm getting tired of the snow, so let's get into this week's episode. For our upcoming campus events, the SAVE Club and the Stockton Maple Project will be hosting tours of their on-campus facilities and observing the process of harvesting sap from red maple trees to make it into maple syrup. These tours will take place on Tuesday, February 10th at 10:50 a.m. in the campus center. For our next event, Alpha Phi Omega will be hosting a snow globe making event on Wednesday, February 11th, starting at 8 p.m. in room G138.
The School of Arts and Humanities here at Stockton will be hosting a Game Jam showcase. And so for those unaware, the Game Jam is an event where artists, coders, and musicians and writers all team up to create a game from scratch within a limited time frame. The games will be showcased on Friday, February 13th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. in the Campus Center Meeting Room number 5. So stop by for some free food and to vote on which game is your favorite. The Stockton Performing Arts Center and Theater Club will be showing The 26 Pebbles, a docurama that explores the aftermath of the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting through the voices of Newton, Connecticut community members and using their interviews with residents to create a narrative about grief, resilience, and healing. The show will cost $12 per ticket for current students, and the show times are 7:30 p.m. on Thursday the 12th and Friday the 13th, and both 2 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. on Saturday the 14th and 2 p.m. on Sunday the 15th. For more information on the events covered, go head over to the Osprey Hub, linked down below. But now for some club news. At our previous meeting, we showcased the movie Talladega Nights by popular demand. This was a true movie of all time. It was definitely a motion picture on which the pictures moved on the screen. Absolute cinema. Thanks to everybody who attended the meeting.
At our next meeting, we will be hosting a bowling night. This will take place at the Kingpin Bowling Alley in Egg Harbor Township at 5:30 p.m. on Thursday, February 12th. The cost is $12 per person, and we hope to see you there. Hey Tyler, where do bowling teams get fresh outfits from?
I don't know.
New Jersey! It's alright, I'll spare you my jokes. In our previous episode, we covered a story on the Gateway Tunnel project. This week, we have an important update. On Monday, February 2nd, both New Jersey and New York filed a breach of contract lawsuit against the Trump administration. These lawsuits aim to unlock $205 million that Congress had previously approved. The Gateway Development Commission is arguing that President Trump illegally froze funding and the move was politically motivated. They also added, the president does not have the authority to block money that has been already set aside by Congress for designated projects. At a meeting on Friday, January 27th, the GDC said it had officially used up the remaining resources and credit. In a statement to CBS News, Governor Sherrill said, "This lawsuit simply says this money has legally been designated by Congress for this project and should be put towards this project, and that the president does not have the legal right to hold it up, as he is doing just for political reasons. He has pointed to no reason why this money should not continue to flow, as Congress directed for this project." Senator Andy Kim also chimed in, saying this is one of the most important projects in the country, that our national economy would struggle tremendously if we don't follow through on this. Democrats in New York and New Jersey also released a statement seen on screen here, which will also be in a link below. $205 million. That's a lot of money. To put it into perspective, $205 million can buy you luxury yachts, supercars, and aircraft, with room left over for cruises and whatever else you would like. $205 million was also the budget for the movie Tenet. For those who aren't aware, New York and New Jersey are only paying 5 to 10% of this tunnel project, with the federal government paying the rest of the cost. So if Congress promised $205 million, 10% of which is another $20.5 million from the states, there should be very little issue as to why the states want so much money from the federal government. The Port Authority of New York and New Jersey projected $2 billion in toll revenue from 2023 to 2024. That's roughly 5 times the amount of money our Congress has promised. While I understand that New Jersey and New York have workers to pay and road work to complete, It wouldn't be a major strain on the state to spend a little more money, especially if they are serious about this project. According to a USA Today article from 2015, New Jersey pays 20% of all tolls in America. That's one state accounting for 1/5 of the tolls nationwide. Money is spent on expanding the turnpike and repairing feeder roadways. So why can't New Jersey and New York foot the bill? Yes, the money was set aside by Congress to pay for this project, but it was not necessary. I said it last week and I'll say it again. This is a state project. It should be paid for using state funds. Otherwise, what are we getting robbed by tolls for? Commuters spend hundreds of dollars on tolls every day. Trump and Congress should not have to bear this responsibility.
When speaking about the legality of the payment freeze by the Trump administration, I'm of no genuine authority since I'm not some experienced law practitioner. However, as I stated previously, this is the game of politics, and pressuring your dissidents to adopt your agenda is politics. One could even say it's the art of the deal. We've had a few decades to read that book. I want what's best for my country, which is the realization of the Trump agenda, and those who impede and refuse to enforce it ought to face the consequences if it comes to things like roads. Last Sunday, February 1st, the 68th Annual Grammy Academy Awards took place in Los Angeles, California. During the events, artists such as Bad Bunny, Billie Eilish, SZA, and others criticized ICE during their awards acceptance speeches. Some artists were silent, but others featured pins saying things like "ICE out" in reference to their removal from cities. Artists such as Justin Bieber, Hayley Williams of Paramore, and Olivia Rodrigo were featured with these pins out on the red carpet. Here's a clip of what Bad Bunny, who won the Album of the Year, had to say about ICE.
Before I say thanks to God, I'm gonna say ICE out. We're not savage, we're not animals, we're not aliens, we are humans, and we are Americans. Also, I want to say to the people, I know it's tough to know, not to hate on these days, and I was thinking, sometime we get contaminados. I don't know how to say that in English. The hate get more powerful with more hate. The only thing that is more powerful than hate is love.
Also making comments was Billie Eilish, who won Song of the Year.
Thank you so much. I can't believe this. Everyone else in this category, you're so amazing. I love you so much. I feel so honored every time I get to be in this room. And as grateful as I feel, I honestly don't feel like I need to say anything, but that no one is illegal on stolen land. And yeah, it's just really hard to know what to say and what to do right now. And I feel really hopeful in this room, and I feel like we just need to keep fighting and speaking up and protesting, and our voices really do matter, and the people matter. And
Following her stolen lands comment, many were quick to criticize her about her ownership of a $3 million Malibu mansion built on ancestral land historically inhabited by the Tongva people. Those who are unaware about the Tongva tribe, they recovered about 4,000 square miles in the land of modern-day Los Angeles Basin. In a statement to Fox News Digital, the Tongva tribe confirmed that Eilish's home was situated on this ancestral land. They noted that while Eilish has not contacted them directly regarding her property, they appreciate that public figures are bringing visibility to the true history of this country. The tribe stated that they have reached out to Eilish's team to express appreciation for her comments, but hope that in the future she will explicitly reference the tribe so that the public understands about the Los Angeles Basin and that it remains in the Galliardro-Tongva territory. So there are a few things wrong about this from the Patriot perspective. 1, her music is bad. 2, this land was not stolen. That is substantively and categorically false. It's dishonest. That's a lie. It was conquered and it was settled, and the importance of that distinction cannot be overstated. One of these things drilled into our heads from public school is that these largely pacifist Indians were just frolicking through the woods until one day Satan incarnate, aka the evil colonists, came and corrupted all that was good and beautiful with the world, like the eye of Mordor was shining upon the teepees of the tribes. It's just simply not true. We were primed to believe this from a young age, and it's told to us in our schools, in our universities, through the media, through film. I mean, in Disney's 1995 Pocahontas, the evil bad guy, Governor Radcliffe, has like this whole song where he's like, oh, the Indians are barely even human. I mean, like, it's a cartoonishly evil portrayal of this guy. And you do like 1 minute of independent research and you find out that this guy was flayed alive with muscle cells and then like thrown into the fire. You know, do with that information as you will. But the idea that America is stolen land is a deliberate lie to make you feel guilty about being a part of this amazing civilization that we have. The Kiowa, the Omaha, the Oti, the Pawnee, the Comanche, the Arapaho, the Lakota, the Seminole, each of these were killing each other for hundreds and hundreds of generations before any Americans actually stepped foot on the continent. And America, compared to every other group of people, has been far kinder to the indigenous population than others have been to each other throughout history. Need I remind you of the Muslim caliphates, China, the Mongols, Tamerlane, even the Roman conquest of Carthage. It's not out of genuine aversion to hypocrisy or injustice that these people are angry. It's about this innate ethnic and cultural grievance held against the American people. And there's only really one way to stop this envy, and that is by conquering it. The vast majority of the conquering that we're even talking about was in fact already done by nature and by disease, like in the first 50 to 100 years of European arrival, which is absolutely tragic and very, very sad, but it still happened. Even Charles Mann, a modern scholar, corroborates this, saying it was about the greatest population collapse in history during an interview with NPR. Americans, frankly, want it fair and square. And, we can absolutely acknowledge that this happened, but I wouldn't say it was completely abhorrent. And number 3, Billie Eilish saying this kind of like defeats her own argument. She's out here saying, everybody, we live on stolen land from the Indians, so we should bring even more people here. This makes sense to me somehow because I make music for a living. I don't even know. It doesn't even hold up to scrutiny. 4, I heard from recovering liberal Drew Pavlou, who's on Twitter. He comes from Australia, that he's flying to the States just to go to Billie Eilish's mansion for fun and see if he can squat there. I think that's frankly hilarious. But she obviously won't allow it because she wants dominion over her land and she has means to enforce it. Well, America, similarly, we don't want these claims taken from us. We have dominion over this land and we also have the means to enforce it. So some of our friends out there who still recall the Roman status for actors and some other public gestures, I think that they were totally vindicated.
First, celebrities told us to stop using paper straws. Then they told us to stop traveling by airplane, reduce our carbon footprint, go green, support illegal aliens who are jeopardizing the system for people who actually want to be here and support this country. Why are we still giving attention to people that live in million-dollar homes in Hollywood Hills with everything at their fingertips? I don't see any of them checking in on myself or my friends, asking how we're doing and how we're getting by. But sure, let me send my hard-earned money to illegal aliens who don't want to work for a dime. It's hypocritical of these celebrities to champion for illegal immigration, saying, no one is illegal on stolen land. Okay, Billy, let me come sleep in your mansion then. Give me one of your bedrooms. I wouldn't be illegal if the land is already stolen. Do not tell me I need to support these people when you won't put your money where your mouth is, and we know you have plenty of it. To my knowledge, most of these Grammy celebrities live in gated communities with 24-hour security. Of course they don't give a damn about criminals, they never have to see them. The hypocrisy is unreal. Taylor Swift encouraged everyone to try and fly less. Meanwhile, she was flying private to all of her boyfriend's football games, because that's okay. All the celebs are saying to protest ICE, but they don't even want to help the American people. And yes, I'm aware, some of them, such as Swift, have donated money to different causes and charities. But then again, There was the Fire Aid concert that raised over $100 million for victims of the Pacific Palisades fire. The event was headlined by multiple well-known artists, but the victims of the fire haven't seen a cent, and where the money went is currently under federal investigation. I'm done with celebrities and their virtue signaling. At this point, their words don't mean squat, and their words don't do squat. They can collect all the money in the world, but it doesn't go to help anyone. It just continues to line their pockets. So for them to start saying that we're the problem, that ICE is the problem, is ridiculous.
On January 30th, the DOJ released 3 million text files, 2,000 videos, and 180,000 images related to the Epstein case. This equates to roughly half of the files the DOJ has on the case, and the rest remain withheld due to them containing explicit or illegal material, images, and videos, with some roughly 200,000 pages being withheld due to these legal privileges. Some contents seem damaging for the many prominent elites featured within them, not just in the United States, but within the broader Western world. President Donald Trump's name appears many times in the documents, but it has been seen to date that most of them, and the significant majority, are in relation to news articles, and some of them even show that Epstein had a deep rivalry with Donald Trump and was looking for ways to ruin his reputation. Additional records detail interactions with Trump. An individual identified as 3 told the FBI in 2021 that Maxwell presented an alleged victim to Trump at a party in New York City, providing a summary of her accolades as though she was a professional CV. According to the FBI document, the victim was later given a tour of Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate by Trump with Epstein and Maxwell present, though the witness clarified that nothing happened between the victim and Trump. Within the files, pages were compiled of accusations against Trump, which many people thought were legitimate, but by actually reading the page, it's clearly stated that these claims were phoned in anonymously, put in by people who had confirmed mental issues or were just simply deemed uncredible. Anyone can claim anything about someone and have it added to a case file. Some of the FBI documents mention well-known men, including current Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and former Prince Andrew. One witness, whose account appears to be that of Virginia Giuffre, told investigators in 2013 that Maxwell and Epstein arranged for her to travel to London, where Maxwell took her shopping for a dress for a meeting with the prince. She stated that she danced with Prince Andrew at a nightclub and alleged that she later engaged in sexual activity with him at Maxwell's residence. She also reported encountering the prince at Epstein's Manhattan home and on his private island. The former prince has always denied wrongdoing. Bill Gates also appears many times, with one mentioning that he even emailed Epstein about contracting an STD and that he was asking Epstein for antibiotic medical assistance. The new tranche of documents includes exchanges between Epstein and billionaire Elon Musk, who emails show has been in touch with Epstein about visiting his private island in 2012 and again over the holidays in 2013. The two emailed in November 2012 about Musk visiting Epstein's island, with Musk asking Epstein, quote, "What day/night will be the wildest party on your island?" unquote. It's unclear if this visit ever happened, but Musk then emailed Epstein in 2013 that he would be in the St. Bart's area over the holidays. He asked if there would be a, quote, "good time to visit," unquote, to which Epstein responded that he would send his helicopter to go and pick up Musk. The visit did not work out, with Musk later emailing that he had to stay in New York and was disappointed because he, quote, "was really looking forward to finally spending some time together where just fun was the agenda," unquote. The billionaire has publicly claimed that he refused to visit the island. Steve Bannon was also mentioned in the Epstein files. Bannon interviewed Epstein, with him providing advice to help clear Epstein's name even after he was already convicted of sexual offenses towards minors. It should be noted that just because a claim is within the files does not mean that it was absolutely true. Not only have the files been back and forth between the hands of every administration since the 2000s, many of whom did not like one another and are potentially implicated in the trafficking ring operated by Epstein. There's a very high probability that at least some of the statements and witnesses may have been true, but many of them may also have been put in to throw off investigators from the track and to try and help exonerate Epstein and his clients. Some of us will recall hearing about the Epstein situation in 2016, maybe some others of us in 2019, the year of his death, or for some of our truly new friends, really starting to hear about this in 2024. But Epstein has been growing more and more important over time. What I don't like about these current developments, though, is the way it's being handled by some of the new recruits and now the broader public. Instead of the story as it actually is, where this sleazy New York finance guru gets enough money to buy himself an island, where he gets massages from 16 and 17-year-olds, and he tries to connect with elites to offer them access to these luxuries, to continue and further his grift, where he lives like a degenerate playboy finance charlatan, we've been told essentially what comes down to a myth. And that myth is that over time, through the conditioning and the memes, the mob of the people basically believes that he's some incarnated trickster folk demon who snatches up children like Krampus and defiles and eats them along with the world's elite, who he has as these little like blackmail minions walking around working for freaking Mossad. This case is still genuinely evil and dishonest. But I want to note, this guy's story has been blown up like the plot of some Marvel movie by people who are really just trying to push an agenda. Specifically, in the early days, it was only conservatives who were rightly suspicious of Epstein's suicide and his connection with the Clintons, the child stuff. But now all you see is Democrats and people on the right who just don't know the facts, calling for a release of the full list. And for anyone who knows how these kinds of operations work and how they're investigated, you know that there will never really be some list. Hot take, I don't really think that blackmailing is exactly what Epstein was doing. He was some new money, New York narcissist Jew who found out that he could get away with sexual assault against teenagers, and then he wanted to be Mr. Worldwide by giving elites access to those luxury assets like the island, like the hotels and the networks, all so he could kind of fulfill this narcissist view of himself and his self-importance. We really think that some mastermind evil genius was the arm of Israeli intelligence within America single-handedly blackmailing everyone. I think it actually turns out that people don't usually like to be blackmailed, and they would probably tell the people, hey, stay away from this guy, he's bad news. He's just some pervert who was like, heck yeah, I get to hang out with former President Bill Clinton, I'm so cool, just to fulfill his narcissistic tendencies. I'm not saying that maybe he doesn't have ties to Israel or that he was never using information against people, but I don't think he's also the literal boogeyman. Most of what this insidious stuff is about is really trying to attack Trump over some of his ties. And that's what the matter really is. Despite the fact that Trump banned him from his properties, that he was the initial whistleblower in the 2000s, and more, Democrats are still trying to claim that he's a pedophile and that he was actually working with Epstein the whole time. We really think that the Biden administration, if they had this information, wouldn't release it, and like every hour on the hour, they'd be broadcasting his involvement on CNN. What's really caused the stir recently are these few pages listing claims in some of the court documents. We have scenarios like, Trump raped me, I was in a party with him and Epstein, Trump forced me to do things, XYZ. And the people thought this was the absolute definitive truth, and that they had finally caught Trump in this. But then you literally look at the next column over on the same exact page and it says anonymous source, not credible info, or my personal favorite, complaint was spoken to and deemed not credible. Additional research showed that 3 separate incidents involving police, which suggested mandatory psychiatric evaluations. So you have these leftists on Twitter saying, see, I told you Trump is a pedophile, and their evidence is literally the crazy ramblings of a paranoid schizophrenic. Maybe this is what Trump was talking about when he was hesitant to release the files, because the unwashed masses literally cannot be trusted with reading a full-page document or having reading comprehension to understand what's even in them. I could file a claim today that I saw Barack Obama shape-shifting into a lizard person, drinking the blood out of a homeless person. That doesn't mean the story's true. It just means that I told the FBI that, and that has to be documented as part of the case. So these developments in the Epstein case were exactly as I expected, random dirt and correspondences between the elites and things like that. He really just wanted to show off how amazing he was to everybody else, and he was a pervert. But so these files have shown to the effective absolution of Trump of any wrongdoing, and for that, I am grateful.
Thank you, Tyler. Honestly, I haven't been following the Epstein case as closely. What I do know is 3 million files is a lot to go through, and it's concerning to think that we now have all of this evidence of people connected to Jeffrey Epstein, and nobody's been arrested. To my understanding, Bill and Hillary Clinton are set to testify in another case regarding Epstein, but other than that, only Prince Andrew seems to have been arrested, despite all of this new information. Even with the files released, there are still redactions within them, blocking out people's names and causing inferences to be made as to what the emails might mean. Another issue with so many files being released at once is the fact that the ordinary person, such as myself, does not have the time to read and understand what all of the files mean and what all of this information is actually saying. So while this is a high-profile case with a lot of he said, she said, we won't know the whole truth, the general public is going to be waiting for the major news outlets to come out and say people have either been arrested or have testified this, testified that, but the problem is, even today, you can't trust those major news sources. So while it's amazing we are able to understand this case and understand more about what took place on Epstein Island, we're never going to know the full story.
Though we covered it last week, the issues in Minneapolis have still yet to be resolved. Resistance to federal law enforcement has gotten worse, with the checkpoints being built around by the people of the city of Minneapolis. These people are demanding to see others' identifications and tracking down people's license plates to determine whether or not they are members of the Immigration and Customs Enforcement. These people are armed, and they have not been afraid to respond with violence to people who are opposing these blockades, and are often attacking them in mobs. These people have been effectively becoming the new law enforcement of the city, with the city police refusing to respond to calls about these thugs. We also now know that Renee Good was in fact a member of the Signal group chat, which we covered last week, and was a member of ICE Watch. To make matters even worse, this level of insurrection has begun to spread to the cities of Los Angeles and Austin. Last week, an ICE facility in LA was besieged for several nights in a row, with ICE officers being trapped inside, with resistance members attempting to break into the building. Protesters spray-painted messages calling for the death of ICE agents. LAPD has been a little bit more responsive than in the Minneapolis case, and they are willing to push some of the people back, but they still often ignore the pleas from ICE agents and other federal law enforcement officers. In Austin, like LA and Portland, teenagers walked out of school to join the resistance against federal law enforcement. In the Austin case, students attacked teachers who were sympathetic to ICE. And in other cities that saw student walkouts, they were encouraged by their own teachers, and many of whom were in contact with the organization of ICE Watch. Breaking on Wednesday, February 4th, ICE is set to pull out 700 officers from Minneapolis, with local officials agreeing to hand over all of their criminal illegal aliens, those who are convicted of murder and other violent crimes, to the federal government, and that they will shut down the roadblocks and checkpoints. We ought to quell the violence in our cities and simply remove those who are not supposed to be here, and I support any policy or method which returns us to that state of being. A particularly cheerful bit of information as well. In a Georgia high school which had one of these student walkouts, their math and reading proficiency scores are 6% and 16% respectively. Do with that information as you will.
So riddle me how the same people calling for open borders and allowing illegal aliens into this country are the same people who have created blockades and checkpoints to monitor the people coming into their city. They've basically become their own form of border patrol, the very same people they claim to loathe. The problem isn't that they are armed. That is their right. The fact is that they are dangerous and should be raising red flags for the Minneapolis Police Department. But instead, the police are letting these insurrectionists take over the city and impede people just trying to get through their day and make it to work. Don't be crying fascism about the Trump administration when Trump could have brought hell down onto them by now, but has chosen to sit back and not do much of anything. A majority of lefties still like to bring up the events of January 6, 2021, when some people stormed the Capitol building. But how about we focus on the present, 2026? Violent mobs are armed and willing to harass citizens because they are so mentally incompetent and cannot get it through their tiny, underdeveloped brains that they have turned into the worst insurrectionists than the people who were at the Capitol. Same circumstances in the fact that the police are letting them proceed however they please. As a student, the school walkouts have got to be some of the dumbest things I've ever heard. Go to school, attend classes because you have the privilege to do so, and learn a thing or two about American history. What pisses me off even more is the video evidence of people behaving like animals, taking over streets and interrupting people's day, stomping on parked vehicles, and causing chaos. They should all be arrested and charged, either with destruction of property, disturbing the peace, whatever the law can throw at them. I'd be willing to bet good money that half the students who walked out have no idea why they walked out, just following in the herd mentality to fit in with everyone else that most liberals have. Also, shame on the teachers who have been promoting these walkouts. They should be fired from their jobs, stripped of their teaching licenses for promoting a lack of education. You want to be an activist? Fine, go be an activist, but leave your politics out of the classroom. And I'll say that for both sides. You are in a position of authority to teach, not to spread your ideals. Thank you everyone for watching. Please like and subscribe to our channel and share this video with anyone who might be interested.
We'll see you next time, and until then, have a great rest of your school week.